Good afternoon, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. We might have some more people, hopefully we'll have a few more people joining us, but we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to go ahead and start off with introductions so that everybody knows who's on the phone here or who's on the webinar here. Bob, is there an organized way to do this or just have people jump in? David, you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm David Yanofsky. I'm a researcher with REL Central at Marzano Research. And I'm here today just to talk about different ways that REL Central could potentially support you if you choose to go after this grant opportunity.
Thanks, David. Lori?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lori Phillips with KnowledgeWorks. KnowledgeWorks is working with some districts in the state currently, and we're here to talk about our experience with CBE, maybe some connections between the opportunity and the work, and also then how we could be of support to those who may plan to apply. And I'll kick it over to Kim. Kim, you're on mute.
You'd think I've never done this in the past month, huh? So anyways, yes, Kim Hanisch, and I am a consultant with KnowledgeWorks, have the opportunity to work with Lori. And she basically said what we're hoping to accomplish today is just to see how we might be able to support the goals and endeavors of the project with the North Dakota schools.
Thanks, Kim. Aaron?
I'm Aaron Rudnigan. I'm the superintendent in Granora Public Schools in the northwestern part of the state.
Hey, Rosie. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I've done this once or twice too, Kim. Hi, I'm Rosie Cloberdance, and I'm the director of EduTech, which is a division within the North Dakota Information Technology Department, providing educational technology services to the schools. And we love working with DPI. And I've also been part of some of the KnowledgeWorks meetings. And I really don't have a lot of background here, but Lisa, you invited me, and so I'm very happy to join and learn more. And if there's anything that EduTech can help support, I'm happy to talk about that.
Thanks, Rosie. Wade?
Good afternoon, Wade Sick. I'm the state director for the Department of Career and Technical Education. So I can only be on the call for a little bit because I have another meeting at 3:30, but I'm just here to learn a little bit more about this and offer any assistance that Career Tech Ed may be able to offer. There's a lot of virtual distance education going on in the Career Tech Ed world, and there are some experts in the field that we can connect school districts from if there's a desire. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to go ahead and share our PowerPoint presentation. Just to let everybody know, too, this is being recorded. We actually had 6 high schools express interest in this grant opportunity. So, like I said, we're recording it and we'll make it available if something came up and they're still interested, so we can share this content with them. And so just to provide you with a little more information about this opportunity here today. So what is the Rural Tech Project? Lost our PowerPoint here, just one sec. Yep. Okay, and let's go to the 3rd slide. Yeah. So just a little bit about this Rural Tech Project. It is being sponsored by the U.S. Department of Education, and it's challenging specifically rural high schools to advance technology education. And it's kind of a 3-pronged project where it's combining competency-based education, distance learning, and technology education. And like I said, specifically for rural. So I think it's a really great opportunity for North Dakota because so many of our high schools meet the definition of rural. I know that with the help of KnowledgeWorks and the REL, we have many of our schools implementing competency-based education. Obviously, we're all knee-deep in distance learning because of the pandemic, and then obviously strong in technology too. So it seems to be a really good fit for North Dakota. So we're hoping that there will be some schools that will take up this opportunity. So schools that are interested in submitting a proposal, they are going to be asked to create a proposal and share their vision for a competency-based distance learning program that involves technology. So they're going to identify, who the program would serve, how it would be designed, and then taking advantage of distance, online, and blended learning. So it also seems, very applicable to the times with what we're all dealing with now with the pandemic. It's divided into 2 phases, and so thought we'd just, take it one phase at a time. But in phase 1, schools are invited to submit a proposal. It doesn't look, horribly in depth, so I think it's very doable for many of our schools. The nice thing too is you have until October 8th of 2020, and that's unheard of when you're working with the U.S. Department of Ed. They're notorious for giving you 2 to 3 weeks notice when a grant application is due. So this is really nice that you have until October to submit the proposal. And then they're going to identify 5 finalists that would progress to phase 2. If you would be included in phase 2, then that would be a 2-year community implementation period. And then after that phase 2, they'd recommend 1 grand prize winner. Again, this is a activity or project that's focusing in on rural. And so if you're going to apply, you're going to have to identify what your state's definition of rural is. And so we can provide all participants with the PowerPoint presentation later as well. But I've provided a link to North Dakota's definition of rural. We need this definition of rural for districts that apply for the SRSA and RLIS REAP funding. So again, this is our official definition of rural that we use for those 2 federal grants. And then I've provided a list of our rural districts. So, districts that are interested in applying can ensure that they're on the list. Chances are pretty likely because like 95% of our districts qualify under our rural definition. Just some of the benefits to applying for this opportunity. This challenge is going to empower educators with some resources to, again, create technology education programs that are customized to their students and local needs. So it's going to be a great opportunity for students. Plus, there's a monetary reward. Like I said, those 5 finalists will equally share in a $500,000 cash prize. And then if you're lucky enough to move on to phase 2, you would get lots of personalized support to plan, refine your program, and then that grand prize winner would get an additional $100,000. If you want to learn more about it, there's some resources. You can email any questions that you have to the site listed there, and they also have a website with a wealth of resources listed. So just a couple of resources that you can access. So we tapped into our partners, 2 of our rural partners that we work closely with on a number of projects, KnowledgeWorks and REL Central at Marzano. And so they introduced themselves earlier in the presentation here, but Lori Phillips and Kim are with us from KnowledgeWorks. They've been helping North Dakota schools implement competency-based and with our PCBL initiative that we're working on with 5 districts. And then we work also closely with David and his peers at REL Central Marzano on a number of projects. And they've also been working on competency-based with several of our districts. So these 2 national partners are going to share some information today. And then they've also agreed, that they can be a resource for any school personnel that are interested in proceeding. So I believe, Lori, that you were going to go first. So we'll just hand the baton over to you.
Okay, I am a Zoom user, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can seamlessly pull up my PowerPoint here. And if you guys can see my screen.
Yep, it's looking good, Lori.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Kim and I are going to tag team this a little bit, and I'm just going to give a little background of KnowledgeWorks. I don't feel like anyone that's on the call, Rosie, I love that you and I have sat together at some of the KnowledgeWorks policy meetings, but don't feel like Aaron, we've met. So wanted to just let you know KnowledgeWorks is a nonprofit out of Cincinnati, Ohio. We've been working in the field of education for about 20 years now. There are 3 different branches or arms to KnowledgeWorks. One really works with policy, and so that's how we met DPI, and have been working with North Dakota and DPI since about 2014. We have a future forecasting team that works together to look at trends and patterns in education and put together forecasts looking 10 years out. To help us think about how the work in education may evolve as we go. And then Kim and I work with the schools team. So we actually work with educators, districts, state level to be able to transform systems to personalized competency-based ed. Part of our philosophy is really that the vision, transparency, and culture we call those meta themes, are some of the foundation that's really going to leverage the system and get it ready for working on and transforming to personalized competency based, as well as learner agency, social emotional, equitable and essential, and then getting into that deeper learning. And so this is some of the work that we've been working on with our NDPCBL districts, Northern Cass, West Fargo, YCC, the Youth Correctional Center, and Oaks are some of our districts that we're working with. We do operate at the systems level, so we've done plenty of work at the district or school level, but feel like we're putting our eggs into the systems basket at this point in trying to leverage this networking and the supports available and wraparound supports to be able to help people change the system. And that we feel will get bigger bang for the buck. And right now we are working in, these are some states across the country that we're working in. I'm lucky enough that I get to work here in North Dakota. I'm hoping that I get to come on site at some point and it won't all be virtual through Zoom or Teams. So Kim, I'm gonna switch it over to you just to give a little bit around some CBE, and I'll try to, I can't see you, but if you wanna give me a heads up when you want me to switch it. And you might be on mute. Does anyone still see Kim or no? Should I keep going?
Okay, that was all practice. Wow, okay.
Deep breaths.
So anyways, just want to give you a little bit more insight into what KnowledgeWorks means when we say personalized competency-based learning, without reading that entire slide, but just scanning it. You can see that it is a combination of the two. Personalized is not the same as independent or isolated learning taking place just by yourself. It is really more getting into the learner agency and us understanding how each individual learns and how to personalize our approach to supporting their learning. The competency-based part is really about the last piece there, and that's the targets and being able to progress monitor as learners are moving and demonstrating competency in all the different academic as well as we'll call it the soft skills or social emotional aspects of learning. And the big thing that I think is obvious right now is the equity issue that you saw there, and that all we do is really to address the idea of equity so that every kid is able to learn. We don't feel you can do that without personalizing the learning. It takes the shift from traditional, which is effective for most of the students, to personalize, which allows every student to succeed. Competency-based learning, again, gets to the targets and able to identify the needs, specific needs of students and help them move along the pathway without any gaps. Mixed in with all that, then in the way that we look at this opportunity for the schools and districts within North Dakota is not that we don't have the expertise in a tech program, but to personalize learning and to provide a competency-based education, technology is a tool that's essential to be able to figure out, and not figure out, but help school districts determine how to use that tool to achieve those goals of personalization, equity, and competency-based learning. That's where we're able to support.
Thanks, Kim. And so when we think about districts who may want to apply for this opportunity, we think KnowledgeWorks could act as a thought partner during the idea generation and that application, that phase one that Lori talked about, thinking about how you would put a plan together. And we certainly can point you towards some resources. We can connect you with some other folks who may have some insight into the plan. And then that potential coaching or refinement and reporting partner that the challenge talks about during that implementation phase two. So we are open to those, and we added here, and I can send this to Lori, but we added our contact info at the end. And so if you want, reach out to Kim, and we can talk further if you're interested in getting that application in by October 8th. David, I am going to attempt to, I'm not sure if I stop sharing or if you take control. Stop presenting, I see it. And so now it is all you.
All right. All right. Are we up? We've seen a slide that says REL Central, who we are.
Good.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, let me answer that question. REL Central, who we are. REL Central is a regional educational laboratory central. And Marzano Research is the contractor for that. We've held this contract now for 8 years, two program cycles. And our job is we are a federally funded contract to serve the applied research and technical assistance needs for a 7-state region, which includes North Dakota. Really, ultimately, our goal, our job, our responsibility as a REL is to encourage and support the use of evidence and data to guide decision making. And so it's in this light, this idea of the use of evidence and data, that REL Central can offer support for a wide variety of programs. We currently are working in North Dakota to support what's called the North Dakota Innovative Schools Research Partnership. And the whole idea behind a research partnership is that the work that we do as a REL needs to be guided and laser focused on the needs of our partners. And so we created this partnership with NDDPI all around this idea of implementing and evaluating innovative schools. And so under the auspices of this particular research partnership, this would allow us to support your application for this particular grant program. And so my job today is to provide the very quickest high-level research overview that I possibly can. And so we're going to look at two things: personalized learning or competency-based education, and online learning. Talk very briefly about what the research base says about these particular things, and then talk about how REL Central can support you if you choose to go ahead and develop this a grant proposal. First of all, this idea of personalized learning or competency-based education is actually beginning to gain some steam at the federal level. And two particular programs, the Race to the Top District Grant Program and the Every Student Succeeds Act, both had language in them that specifically discussed this idea of personalizing student-focused approaches. Of really thinking about education in a way that personalizes it and adapts to the student needs as opposed to the whole class needs. So we're beginning to really see at the federal level a shift in focus, or begin at least an acknowledgement that personalized approaches are important. I think there's a lot more the federal government can do to support this, of course, but we are beginning to see some movement in that direction. And so when we think about the research around personalized learning, competency-based education, the best way to characterize the research base at this point is in its infancy. Even though these ideas of competency-based education, personalized learning, have been around for quite some time, researchers really haven't turned their attention to it until just recently. We are beginning to see some evidence that competency-based approaches, personalized learning, does have potential positive effects on student achievement. But one of the problems here is when you study a whole system change like personalized learning, competency-based education, it's very difficult for researchers to tease out the individual components of that system and figure out what it is that's actually causing positive effects. And so that's one of the reasons that the research base at this point in time really is relatively small. Most of the research to this point in time has talked about different approaches, has really been descriptive, and in talking about how different school districts have tried to implement this kind of thing. So we have a lot of good descriptive studies of what's going on in terms of personalized learning or CBE. We don't have a lot of research that talks about impact. We've started to see a set of case studies, and these case studies are studying successful implementation and have started to try to tease out what's important for implementing CBE. We know, for example, from the research base that teachers have to think about instruction differently than they have prior. We have to make that shift from that traditional system in the teacher's role to a different way of thinking. We know that student data is incredibly important in guiding and making decisions in a personalized learning or CBE system. If we're going to set learning targets, we need to collect and use data to guide students towards reaching those targets, for example. In a physical setting, physical spaces may need to change to accommodate different learning needs going on at the same time. And then ultimately flexibility in not only delivery of instruction, but grading systems and policies, in time policies are all incredibly important in implementing CBE. So just to sort of summarize at this point, we have pretty good evidence on different factors or pieces of CBE. We don't have a really good research base overall that tells us that this is the direction to go. However, the little bit that we do have does suggest that there is a potential positive effect. And this is just a list of some of the bigger studies that have been done. The RAND Corporation has done some really good work. One of the problems with the RAND studies are their design. Their design is because of the realities of studying school system change, their designs aren't the most rigorous. But that being said, there is good positive potential data coming out of these particular studies. All right, now distance learning. Distance learning in some ways is similar. And one of the reasons that the research base is really sort of wonky here with distance learning is because distance learning has changed so much so rapidly. One of the first big large-scale studies of distance education happened with the U.S. Department of Education back in 1999. And they did a large meta-analysis, which is where we take the results of multiple studies and combine them to come up with one single measure or one single indication of change. And if you think about what distance learning would have looked like in 1999 compared to what distance learning would have looked like now, it's easy to see that those research findings are really irrelevant at this point in time. Distance learning has changed tremendously. But in general, online approaches or distance learning approaches appear to have, at the very least, similar effects than face-to-face approaches. So we know at this point in time that they're not worse. In some cases, in some circumstances, they show improved student outcomes. In some other cases, they do show worse student outcomes. But those varying results are largely a case of implementation and how that particular distance learning is designed. In general, again, the most recent meta-analysis I looked at shows that overall, at the very least, similar effects than face-to-face approaches. We also know that blended approaches may be better than purely online, and we'll talk about why that is in just a second. Really what the research is indicating is that the conditions under which the student is learning are absolutely critical. And probably the most important one is this idea of social presence. Social presence is this concept that students need to know that there's somebody else out there. There's somebody on the other end of the computer. There's someone that they can interact with, that they can share their learning with, that they can learn together with. That there has to be this feeling of somebody else if learning is going to be effective. And more the research is indicating that this social presence is absolutely critical. And we can do this through interactions with other learners and teachers. So whatever the online or distance learning design is, it should really pay close attention to how can we implement and encourage interactions with other learners and teachers. And so we make sure that this idea of social presence continues to go through. What the research is showing so far is that online or distance learning approaches that pay very close attention to these interactions do have better or do have more positive results than ones that don't. So this social presence is a critical factor in distance learning. We also have seen that distance learning designs that include personalized or CVE design features also have better student outcomes. Gamified approaches with the idea of designing the interface with the online environment in such a way that it encourages this gameplay. So basing online learning on the principles of video gaming is showing potential at this point in time, and that feedback systems also are pretty critical as part of distance learning. So again, this is a very high-level overview. Again, just some particular studies that I looked at or that are out there right now. The literature base is much broader than this, but these are just selected ones that I chose. And so really the ultimate question is how can REL Central help? Remember that REL Central exists to support the use of data and evidence to guide decision making. And so if you're in the process of writing your proposal and you need research to support your approach, or you need research to help you think through what best practices might be, that's something that we can do for you. We have a service called an Ask a REL service, which you would just contact me and ask a question, and we would put a set of researchers on there, and they would come back and provide a list of 7 to 10 research studies that might help guide your decision making, or you might be able to cite in your proposal to help support something that you want to do. So providing research is something we can do. Obviously, we can act as a thought partner from the research perspective, and so we would love to sit down in a Zoom call and just help as you're having a conversation about what this might look like, be able to give you a sense of what does the research say about something. And so being a thought partner from that perspective. If you are thinking about including some sort of evaluation plan in your proposal, this is a place that we're doing a lot of work with program evaluation right now and trying to make program evaluation simpler and easier for school districts to be able to do. And so providing guidance on the collection and analysis of local data, providing guidance on evaluation methods, providing guidance on the use of logic models as a planning tool or as part of your program evaluation. I mean, that's just a brief list, but if you are thinking about program evaluation as part of your proposal, we would love to be able to help you think through that. And it's something that we've been doing a lot of lately with a number of states in our region. And then, of course, anything else that you might be able to think of, as long as it involves the use of data and evidence. That's really where what I can use federal funds as long as I'm helping you understand and better use data and evidence to inform decision making. So again, some of the things that we can do, you know, and if you decide to move forward with this grant application and there is something here that you think we can help you with, we would love to have a conversation. If nothing else, just have a conversation and say, you know, this is what we can and this is what we can't do. This is what we can do to help and this is what we can't do. So here's my contact information. I'll go ahead and throw these slides over to Lori after we're done so that she can share them out. You can also get a hold of us at REL Central, the REL Central website, or the Marzano Research website. You can get a hold of me. So either way, you can get through to us. All right.
So
okay. Thanks everybody. I'm going to stop sharing.
thank you very much, David and Lori and Kim. That was awesome. Just a little bit about both of the organizations and specifically how both of these national partners could help, you know, a school in North Dakota if they decided to go forward. So that's just kind of what we wanted to share today, just a very brief overview of what this project is, and that, you know, you have some great help here if you want to move forward with KnowledgeWorks and Marzano REL, you know, helping you. So does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask while we have our partners on the line here?
I can't think of anything. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, so this is Rosie, and Lori, I think you'll agree with me. So you mentioned the Department of Education gives you 2 to 3 weeks. And so we had put in some prior EIR grants, the Education, Innovation, and Research grants, and you didn't have much time. Sure wish that would have had this resource available because that's exactly what they were looking for, was the data and the evaluation. And that's the piece that I think probably, if it's really, really strong, you have a better chance after those grants. So their next one is due August the 14th. And I don't think I'm going to be working on that one. It's just a week or so away. But thank you. This was excellent.
And Rosie, if that comes up again, reach out. We may be able to help you think through that evaluation piece. That's what we do. So
wonderful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, we will share this information out to our school districts in our weekly blast. And so if there were some of the other ones that had expressed interest earlier, or anybody else who's interested, Lori, Kim, David, they may reach out to you, you know, after seeing the slides and the information. And so hopefully we'll have, you know, some of our districts or rural high schools in North Dakota take advantage of this, because I think it's so timely with what's going on right now with the distance learning focus, and, you know, the help that they could receive from both of your organizations, oh my gosh, would be invaluable. So hopefully we'll have some of our schools take up this opportunity. So last chance for anyone else who wants to share anything. Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate your help.
Thanks, Lori.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Lori. Thank you all.